Before we begin, this audio contains detailed descriptions of crime scenes that are more gruesome than your average "he was murdered" plot. It also contains mentions of self-termination. With those warnings, please enjoy. Alright, people. Settle down. Settle down. Welcome to today's meeting on September 6th, 1997. You all probably know why we are here today. With the recent cases involving the disappearances here in our home state of Midrolls, over the past 3 months, we've had 20,423 disappearances. Just to name some of the more noticeable ones, as not to bore you and to make sure you all understand the leverage of this situation. Case 1, Jennifer Keela, age 31, sex female. Criminal record only consists of minor theft when she was 14 from a store she lived by. Disappeared September 1st. Our most recent case, to my knowledge. She was a public speaker for 3 years before using the money she earned to feed and shelter the homeless in many states before settling here. Case 2, Matthew Natz. Age 23, sex male. Criminal record, arson. He was imprisoned for 3 years after burning down his neighbor's house. His motive for doing so is unknown, but after being released, he took a different turn in life and became a firefighter for this town. Disappeared August 21st. He was on his way to his nephew's birthday when he got into an accident and was put in the hospital on the 19th. 2 days later, he disappeared. Case 3, Luke Liam. Sex, male, age 48. Disappeared June 1st. His name is probably familiar to many of you in here. He was the former mayor of this town when he suddenly disappeared after the lights of the room he was speaking in went out. He was speaking out against the current cases of the disappearances when the lights in the room cut off. When they flipped back on, he was gone. Criminal record consisted of rigging the vote in his favor, but after he was elected, the state saw a significant increase in happiness and overall well-being. So, Case 4, Yorum Mada. Sex, male, age 18. Disappeared June 30th. It was unknown what they were doing at the time, but given their occupation as a paranormal investigator, they were probably out on an investigation when they disappeared. Criminal record is none despite their known horrible family situation with their abusive father and absent mother. They turned out a phenomenal person and helped make this state a little less shitty than it is. Back to the case at hand. We have a few suspects who might be tied in some way to the cases. The big 3 ones are Arlo Trene, Gabriel Lairbag, and Haro Lilin. These suspects are the most likely to be responsible for the most amount of disappearances within the 20,000, though we don't have definitive evidence. Arlo Trene is heavily suspected to be the perp in 8 child disappearances, though it is unknown if he was or not. If he was, I wouldn't put it past him to move on from children to adults, who could possibly ruin his reputation. Gabriel Lairbag. Sounds odd to think the only priest in town would be responsible for the disappearance of 20,000 plus people, but if there's anything I have learned in my years of being a detective, I've learned that the ones that seem innocent never actually are. So, that puts Gabriel on the list as well. And finally, Haro Lilin. I am aware it is a long shot, but we never confirmed his death. So until it is confirmed, I have reason to believe he is still alive and is back to finish the job that he started. Any questions? No? Dismissed, then. Hey, rookie. Can you come see me in my office for a moment? It's nothing bad. You aren't in trouble. Don't worry. I just need to speak to you. 20,000 plus cases in 3 months. I don't want to believe it either, but the amount of people gone in such a short time is eerily similar to that case. Oh, right, you're new here. Haro Lilin was a famous killer back in the 1950s. Went to many different states and killed a lot of people. Once the police caught on to him, he would just vanish and move on to the next. It was only in Midrolls that he had his killing spree cut short. Normally, depending on how tight the security of his state was, he could get 40 to 50,000 kills in a place with a very small and loose security. But places with tighter security and better police, he could really only get 28 to 34,000 kills. But we were lucky enough to catch him when he only had 19,000. A chase ensued, where he got more kills, and that's why 20,000 is his lowest kill count. We managed to stop the man in the act, but when he was getting away, he ran his car off Bridge Lynn, just a few miles from here. My men searched everywhere for him, and they found his car with a broken window and a bloody trail of footprints leading away. They kept looking for him for weeks before giving up and pronouncing him dead. We still have no clue if he's alive or not due to no body, but I hope for our sake he is. Now, I need your help figuring out what to do. Yes, you. I saw your report papers on the first case you ever did all the way in Wyoming, uncovering a cold case and solving it within 9 hours of being hired. A case that went unsolved for 4 years. And right after you solved it, your previous employer handed us what went down that day, and it is quite hysterical, if I do say so myself. And I quote, "After solving the case in less time than ever before, the new hire breathed a sigh of relief and put in their 2 weeks' notice." End quote. You have some skill and guts signing up to be a detective, solve a case in under a day, and then put in your letter of resignation. Truly admirable. So, that's why I'm asking for your help on this case. You seem to know what you are doing, despite being a rookie in this field. Even brought an extra blanket and pillow, because you will most likely end up sleeping in this office with me. So, when we wake up, we can get right to work. I know this is your first day here, but I'm promoting you to deputy. Now then, let's get to work, shall we? First, we need to find points which allude to it being Haro responsible for this case. Though, it still could be likely that it is the other two. But right now, we're set on Haro. We already have a few bits of evidence for that. For starters, the missing cases and the murder cases all have a similar premise. A pattern. Calling card. The victim is targeted and stalked for a few days. Jennifer Keela, before disappearing, is reported to have stated that she had suddenly started experiencing strange feelings, like she was being watched. And each day, it kept getting worse and worse. Then, the day before her disappearance, She said that she stopped feeling that paranoia and instead felt warm and happy, like she heard an angel's choir singing in her ear. Then, the next day, she was gone. When we searched the house, we found no evidence of a struggle, no traces of who or what happened there. The only bits we did find, however, was an open door with a lock seemingly broken from the inside. As to how, we're still trying to figure that out. But the most interesting thing that we found was writing on the walls. The writing itself was in some sort of black liquid. We have found it to be a mixture of ink, urine, and some unknown substance. What was written on the wall was a bunch of text in Latin that, when we translated it, said, "Jennifer Keela, her sins not yet forgiven, stole from them all, and more she has done. Her punishment is most severe. Pray for her. Her end is here," along with a painting titled "The Thief of Skin." It's a graphic depiction of a humanoid creature stealing the skin off of a person, likely alluding to the short quote about her crimes and how it affected other people because she stole. That scene was scarily similar to Haro's method of killing. He would stalk his victim, learn their sleep patterns when they were most vulnerable. Then he would do his job and leave. The only traces he left behind were a quote about them and why he was justified in killing them, and a sick painting of the aftermath of his victim's demise, according to his mind. All of these cases tread eerily similar ground to that of Haro, so we can pin these on him. But let's not leave the other two out of this just yet. They still have the grounds to be the culprit. Arlo Trene is responsible, or he is suspected to be responsible, for the case of the 8 missing children at his family-owned restaurant. And Gabriel Lairbag, he is not fully clear either. I never said this in the meeting, but before he became a priest at the local church, he was imprisoned for 10 years after he was caught performing heinous acts in a cult he founded for a god they named Natas. Whoa! What was that about? Do you know something about them? Oh. That's horrible. I hope your niece is in a better place, even if they sacrificed her for Natas. I am truly sorry about that. No one should be subjected to that pain. No one. It's getting kind of late. We should head off to bed. Oh, the bathroom. Down the hall to the left. You can't miss it. I'll see you in a bit. They're a good kid. I hope they know that. And stay safe. They sound like they need it after reading through what we have on them. Target of a false charge that landed them in prison for 3 years. Parents didn't care enough for them to the point that they had to learn everything they know by themselves. They sound like a worse case of Yaramada. Way worse. And yet, just like Yaram, they turned out this well. Stay safe, Deputy. Stay safe. Hey, Deputy. You awake? You dozed off again. We're here. Come on, get out. We have a lot of work to do. Oh, this is... I hope you can hold your stomach, Deputy. Looks like whatever happened here didn't go well. Let's see what evidence we have. The first and most obvious, the scene we have in front of us. The victim's body has been nailed to the center of a pentagram, drawn from what appears to be their innards and that black substance we found in the disappearances. The symbols written on it translate to say, to die as just another nameless person instead of accepting our gift of peace. Well, whoever did this was sick, killing an innocent in their home. Let's see the face of the fallen man. Deputy, take a mental file. Victim was 24-year-old Miller Grain. Cause of death currently unknown. Place of death, his home. Let's go looking around for clues to find the murderer. And put them 12 feet under. Found something, Deputy? What is it? I think your resume lied about you being a rookie in the detective field. Because even with the years of training and work I have under my belt as a detective, I completely missed that round. By the looks of the round's head, it's from a rifle of some kind. Miller did have 3 different rifles, 2 for hunting and 1 for self-defense. This is a 7.62 NATO op round. Seeing as there are no bullet holes in the wall, the round must have hit the target. But seeing as there's no trace of blood, the target had to have been wearing Kevlar or something. But let's keep looking around. We are bound to find something. Okay, so, by the looks of things, the struggle started here. The intruder must have broken into his house, and hearing the sounds of his back door being unlocked, Miller must have took the offensive. He shot his op at the intruder, and, by my assumption, the intruder was wearing Kevlar, because there is no sign of foreign blood anywhere in here. Miller, must have then been captured and killed over a bucket or container of some kind to prevent a messy scene, unless there's a room in the house that we haven't searched. And you can guess the rest. Still, not enough evidence to make a definitive case on what happened here, but we're getting closer. Fan out, Deputy. I'll take the attic, you get the basement. Got it? Good. Our top story tonight, the burning of our local church. It was a large, popular church with the locals going there often for various activities. It served as a place of worship for other foreign religions, as one might guess a church to be. Local authorities say that this was not an accident after finding strange markings in the sacrament room, as well as the burned ashes of the Bibles in the library section of the church being spread to say, "There is no God anymore. He is not what you make him out to be." Could this be a direct attack against someone or any religious group? A threat from a cult? We may never know. Now, moving on to... Deputy, you find anything? No? Then what was that all about? Because that was news from a different state entirely. And there are more VHS tapes with different state names on them. Now, that raises an even bigger question. How did these get here? From what our file on Miller says, he was born in this state and never left it. Not even for vacation. So, unless he lied about leaving, I have to make one of my assumptions to be that this is a setup by someone to frame someone else. But who? And why? Oh, the attic? Just some old records, a tarot card set, and a Tripitaka with some of its pages torn out. Just strange stuff. Alright, so, with what we have gathered, we need to make a guess on what happened here to pin it on our board of evidence. Gabriel or Haro were responsible for this, given Trene was found deceased with a tape on him saying his crimes. None of which involved this case we are on, so he's ruled out. So, what we can take from this case, his murder wasn't reported until around 9:27 p.m., and from what our medical professionals say, he died around 8:12 p.m. So, it was an hour or so after his death it was reported. By the way this murder was, the intruder must have broken in when Miller was trying to sleep. He heard the lock being broken and took the offense with his op, like I stated earlier. He fired one round in his bedroom that ended up 2 more rooms down in his guest bedroom. We don't know if the round hit or not, but it likely did. The killer then got in close quarters with him, knocking him out cold with blunt force trauma. But that is just from observation. After he was knocked out, upon closer examination of his body, his throat was slit and used to fill something. He was then gutted, and his insides, along with that black substance that we've encountered before, was used to paint a pentagram that Miller's body was then nailed to the center of. Using the rest of the black substance, they wrote that quote. No other evidence has been found. Come on, Deputy. Let's get back to the station. We have a lot of writing to do. That painting in the corner. How did we miss that on our first sweep through the house? It's titled Miller the Killer. Deputy, we're heading back and filing this report. Case number 20,424. Victim Miller Grain, age 24 years old. Unofficial cause of death, blood loss via slit throat. Place of death, his home. Miller Grain was a veteran from the Cold War, loved in this community for his oftentimes over-exaggerated stories and jokes, a fan favorite among children. He was also an avid hunter, and the community loved him for that. Criminal record, he was caught drinking and driving on 2 accounts. Had his license suspended for 2 years, was imprisoned on charges of property damage and noise disturbances. In his home was another art piece titled Miller the Killer. The drawing depicted what we assume to be a demented version of Miller grabbing the arm of a child with one hand while stabbing them with a spike in his other arm. The child is depicted screaming and crying, but most disturbingly of all, the child appears similar to the little girl the Walton family had coincidentally, 3 years after Haro's pronounced death, was found dead in her bed. A massive hole in her chest, like she had been impaled. This killer is so much more sick than Haro. But if it is Haro behind this, I wouldn't put it past him. Years of being forgotten can give someone time to become worse than ever. Back to the case. There seems to be patterns, almost, in each of these cases. Each victim had a criminal record of some kind, all except for the case of Yarumada. He had no criminal record, but that begs the question. Who is behind all of this? What do they want? What is the motive? Are they taking or killing the victims for their own selfish gain or sick view of justice? Whatever is going down, I will solve it. And the person causing all of this pain and suffering will face justice, no matter what.
He will pay. They will pay. You will pay. He will pay. They will pay. You will pay.
Hey, Deputy? Are you alright? You were having another nightmare, I think. Was it about the cult of Natas? What did they do to you? Branded. Poor thing. Let's see what you've missed. Well, while you were out sick for the past week, we've had an increase in the disappearances. From 20,424 cases to 38,895 cases. Seems like the person behind this considers you a threat to them. Seeing as when you were out of commission and couldn't help me figure out what happened, they strike extremely hard in a week. It's gotten to a point where the victims don't even mention their paranoia of being watched. Just the usual angel choir singing in their ear. Oh, we have tried protecting a victim, but it only ended up in a repeat of Miller's case. We had 5 officers waiting outside the target's house. None of them survived, and the victim was murdered. Like with Miller, the victim's body was nailed to the center of a pentagram drawn with that black substance and the victim's innards. And as for the cops stationed at the house, we found all 5 of them in the woods the next morning. All 5 burned on a stake, facing each other. A painting of each of them at the foot of their stakes, each with their own quote attached to them. You want me to go over them to catch you up to speed? Alright, deep breath. The first person was Officer Matthew. He was found with a broken right arm and left leg, as well as a massive fracture in the right side of his skull. From the autopsy, coroners determined his skull was broken, but that isn't what killed him. He was very much still alive and could feel pain. As to how, though, seeing as the injury he sustained would be fatal, we don't really know. When he was burned, he felt every moment. The quote attached to him read, "Officer Matthew, his sins great, challenged our rule. For that, he paid the price of his life. An eye for an eye." The painting along with that quote was titled, "The Headhunter," It was a painting of what we can only assume was Matthew ripping the head off of a person. All of the paintings that are left after the scene of the disappearances correspond to a crime or sin someone committed before. In the case of Officer Matthew, a few years ago, when on the chase for a criminal, Matthew mistook a civilian for the criminal and pinned them down in a headlock. However, the civilian that he had held in the headlock had a history with a weak and frail neck. Because Matthew was 6'4" and weighed 260 pounds, added on the extra force he was using in the headlock, he ended up breaking the civilian's neck, killing them. Only afterwards did he realize it was not the suspect he was after. The ambulance was called, but the damage was done, so the civilian was pronounced dead. Yeah, I guess Matthew did unlawfully kill an innocent person, but again, it was an accident. That didn't mean it's fair for the sick person behind all of this to break 2 of his limbs, cave his skull in, and burn him alive. It's just not. The second person to go was Officer Shea. She was found with a missing eye, a sprained knee, and her vocal cords torn out and somewhat wrapped around her neck. Coroners reported she died from blood loss right before her burning. The quote attached to her read, "Officer Shea, her sins of uncleanliness and manipulation cost her the eye she used to tempt others, and the voice she used to manipulate them." Officer Shea, before she was a police officer, had a job in preaching. However, she used her influence over others to make herself rich by exploiting others. She was obviously eventually caught and imprisoned for 6 years, before being released and becoming a police officer. But even then, getting her life together, someone remembered the bad thing about her. The painting of what we assumed to be her depicted an unholy amalgamation of mouths screaming, and around the amalgamation were people stealing and killing each other. "You okay, Deputy?" "Just making sure. This is your first day back, and considering how you've already had a nightmare, just wanted to make sure that you could handle the last 3, as they are gruesome, to say the least." The third was Officer Will, found with his lower half removed and replaced with the deer's lower half. Coroners think he died when encountering the culprit behind all of these, though the autopsy on him told a different story. For some odd reason, his heart suddenly experienced a very, very severe case of ventricular tachycardia and started pumping mass amounts of blood throughout his body at an intensity so high that some of his veins popped. Most in his pulmonary veins, which caused the flow of oxygenated blood going from his lungs to his heart to reverse their direction. Effectively, he drowned in his own blood from the inside. As for Will's lower half, further in the forest we found a deer with Will's lower half. The quote attached to the painting at the foot of his stake read, "Will pushed his ideals onto others, resulting in death. Took the lives of innocents, and so he took his own." The painting was of what appeared to be a hunter with a knife, stabbing themselves as well as a fawn before its mother. Out of all of them, he had a more gruesome ending. He was an illegal poacher before becoming a police officer. Ended up hunting 234 silver-eyed deer, I believe, which are native to Midrolls only, so not that big of a population has grown. I think the last time I checked, only 15 were in the wild, out of 249. Moving on, the fourth death was Chief of the K9 Unit, Officer Richard. His body, along with his K9 partner's body, were discovered to have multiple things swapped. Richard had his left arm and right eye replaced with his dog's, and vice versa. But the disturbing and more grotesque part was the fact the culprit... They swapped the organs of the two. Richard had his lungs, kidney, large intestine, and heart swapped for his dog's, and his dog got Richard's stomach, small intestine, liver, and bladder swapped. The rest of the organs were strung around the woodpile of their stake. The quote attached to the painting was also disturbing. Richard and his companion ended the future many times, for many lives. Tore out organs and swapped them around for sick pleasures. Their sins shall be faced with the same fate. The painting depicted a demon with their organs exposed, and a demonic canine ripping apart what appears to be farmers. The disturbing thing about all of this is we originally thought Richard and his dog had no previous criminal record, but upon closer inspection, we found out that he had handwritten confessions of killing victims and swapping their organs after we investigated his house while he was sick. For taking a job of protecting the innocent while he previously killed them, he was at least kind enough to pull an Arlo and write down his misdoings. He still had his job because, well, he was good at it. Not one charged against him as a police officer, and he was being watched like a hawk. Then there is Case 5. Sheriff Amanda. She was found with her organs ripped out and used to string her to the stake. She was wearing a part of her small intestine cut and wrapped around her head with thorn vines to make a messed up version of the crown of thorns. Amanda, her sins were grave, committed killings to that she repaid. But her greatest sin of all, one that could not be forgiven, she tried protecting the evil and the spawn they harbored. And for that, they will meet again in afterlife. The painting attached was... It was an image of the victim with a surprisingly human appearance, holding two spawns of Satan, with Amanda trying to protect them from an angel, with their face blurred out by black paint. It was the only painting with the officer being human. It was simply called The Angel's Wrath. I don't want to think about or know what crimes Amanda committed. There you are, caught up to speed on what happened when you were sick. The only other thing that happened was... I think I caught onto a new lead. After you got knocked down by mild acute bronchitis, I went to the family-owned restaurant nearby. No, it was not Arlo Trenes. When you called in sick, I investigated the people there, and I got one to talk. He was a big dude. He told me about how, when he was hunting out in the woods, one night he saw what he assumed to be a person. When he tried to get close, it ran away, but he managed to snap a photo. When we zoomed in on it, and after a lot of trial and error and editing to make sure that we got the clearest look that we can, we found out the thing in the photo was Haro. He is still alive, but something our colleagues failed to see when we first inspected the photo. Normally, Haro would have a creepy glare and smile, even when running. But in the photo, he looked terrified, like he had witnessed something that he shouldn't have. When we looked at old security footage of him, his eyes said it all. They were soulless, merciless, downright psychopathic. But here, in the new image we have of him, I can see a soul in there, and it is screaming in fear. He had seen something or someone he shouldn't have. All of this is to say, get up. We have a job to do. Well, we know that Haro is still alive, but that doesn't mean he's the cause behind the disappearances necessarily. If there's something in the world terrifying enough to scare Haro's soul back into him, it means there is something deeper behind all of this. And that's why we are at the church. This was one of the first buildings in this state. It's bound to have something in it. Essentially grasping at straws and a little detective's hunch. Come on, deputy. We have got some investigating to do. What the hell? Deputy? Looks like Haro is the culprit up there. Gabriel Learbag. Looks like Haro got to him, and he was not happy. Impaled on one of the organ's pipes. My detective's hunch didn't seem to be wrong. Gabriel, his name, that of the Archangel, yet he was not. He was a demon who lies and deceives. No angel lies, only demons. He cost many their lives, and so the very instrument played to the dead god is the very same one that shows him the truth. Kind of harsh, even by Haro's standards. Was this personal reasons? Let's keep looking around. What the? VHS tape.
The feast opens the mouth in the sky as the blood of the gods pour out unto the earth to feed those who hear the prayers of...
Your god is dead. He bowed to me.
What the? What was that thing? Why did... No, I'm not okay. I need a break. Can you drive us back to the station? I need a moment to think. Ah, deputy. There you are. I've been waiting for you. We've got a huge case ahead of us. After a few days spent setting up trail cams, we found him. Definitive evidence Haro is still alive, and moreover, it seems his soul has started leaving his body again. He no longer looks traumatized. Well, he still does look somewhat scared. Some of the footage from the cams show him jumping at the slightest noise, but he looks ready to finish the job he started years ago. He'll probably go from kidnapping to killing again, and we need to stop it. So, do you have any ideas or plans to get rid of him and end this nightmare? Well, I want to include you because you are the whole reason we got this close in the first place. And leaving you out now would be counterproductive to this whole operation. So, do you have any ideas on what to do? A trap. Yeah, that could work. We lead Haro into a place with little to no exits, thinking his next victim is there, and when he enters, we surprise and trap him, bringing him to justice. Good idea, Deputy. Far better than what I had planned. Oh, my ideas were to either send out a search team with a few Army-issued AA-52s Miller Grain had stored in a warehouse that his wife very graciously allowed us to take shortly after his death, and, when they see him, shoot him until their trigger finger bled, or till their ammo ran out. Or, we wait for him to come out into the open and hit him with a minivan, a few times over just to make sure. Yeah, I know that's not part of the police oath to kill someone if they can be detained. But with what that man has done, he deserves a punishment of divine levels. Though, if we can capture him, we can question him behind his motives on why he kidnapped people or what terrified him enough to the point he only wanted to kidnap people for a while. So, I guess your plan is the better of both of us. Now, how will the trap be set? Haro may be a ruthless killer, but he isn't stupid. We can't just dangle a chicken leg on a rope and expect him to follow it. Yeah, we have a few unoccupied houses Haro hasn't gone to. Oh. I see what you're doing. Yeah, that's a good idea. We set up in that house, lock all the doors except the back, board up the windows to prevent escape from them, and set up a bait. When Haro enters, the bait gives the signal and the police force bursts out of hiding and pins Haro down. Once pinned down, we inject him with anesthesia to knock him out as to prevent him from escaping. Last photo we saw of him showed us, in the time he's been gone, he's built up some muscle. It is unknown how, but it happened. And we saw him wrestle a bear. And yes, come out on top. So he's no pushover, unlike when he first came to Midrolls, where he could and very easily collapsed if even someone like you punched him. So, that's why we're using anesthesia to prevent his escape. His capture is crucial. If we get a chance to interrogate him, it's possible to find out his motives. We can more easily and willingly put him onto the ground with excessive force. Yeah. We will make sure of that. Even if he fakes his own death, he will run out of air long before he can get to the surface. Well then, Deputy, let's get to it. Finally, after so long, this is the only way it should have ended.
Hush now, hide. All you little ones rush now into the middle of nowhere. The end is nigh, the king deserves a blood high. Scream now as oblivion rushes out now. Sing, for the evening has gone now. Light has no longer poured through. How the king has suffered a bloody end. Ring out and sing the sacrifice. The end is nigh. Creatures of darkness shall pour on through. Hush now and cry. Looks like someone forgot to lock their door. Time to teach them a lesson. Now, what to do? How about...
Freeze! Hands up!
Well, I'll give you this. That was clever. Even for your standards.
You're not going to talk your way out of this one, Haro. Not when I'm in charge.
Funny. You think just because you're in your father's position, you can control the situation. But let me tell you this, old friend. Your father owed a debt to me, and it was never paid off. So until it is, the deal he and I made still stands. No one in your family can harm me, and the oath sworn by everyone here states that no harm should come to someone unless instructed to or forced to. And as of right now, you're the person in this room with the power to command everyone else. I'm unarmed, and you're still in debt to me, so put down your weapons and walk out.
No. I left my father to rot. Me and him are not the same people. I do not give a fuck about the contract you and him made. I want you behind bars, being executed for the crimes you have committed. Haro Lilin, in the name of peace, you are under arrest.
Oh, is the little girl all grown up now? How cute. What makes you think you can order me around? Aw, is that behind you? A secret admirer? No, get that thing away from me! Don't come any closer!
Follow him!
Get out of my head, demon. Leave me alone. What do you want?
Move and I'll put a bullet through your head.
You little brat.
Suspect secured and captured. I'm near the nowhere door. Get the new deputy as well. We're going back to the station to interrogate Haro. What do you mean you can't find the deputy? Have you called them? Deputy, come in. Where the hell are you? Got lost chasing after us, how? Alright. Well, just start heading back to the station, even on foot. I'll interrogate Haro as best as I can until you arrive. Haro Lilin, the famous serial killer, responsible for 1,873,951 deaths across multiple states, and 40,867 disappearances here in Midrolls. What a catch. You know why you're here, so spit it out. Why do all of this?
Wouldn't you like to know? Wait, disappearances? What do you mean by that?
Oh, come on. Don't play dumb now. We both know what you have done to these poor people. So spit it out already.
I don't have a single clue of what you're talking about.
So you seriously won't admit to guilt? Let me remind you of the things you have done after your dramatic death. After you faked your own death, people started disappearing. The only traces left behind were quotes about the justification of their kidnapping and a picture of a sick and twisted version of them. Just like your own calling card. Some of the victims were murdered after they put up a struggle. You killed Gabriel Leirbag, caused the disappearance of Yarum Mata, and on top of all of that, you did it in the most disrespectful way possible. You put me and the deputy through so much trouble to capture you. And now you're saying you don't even fucking remember kidnapping people?
Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I guess we'll never know.
Listen here, you lying little... Oh, there you are, deputy. Now, you mind...
Okay. I admit to my murders. Every single one of them. Just please get that thing away from me.
I knew you would break eventually. Now then, do you admit to the kidnappings?
I didn't even know they were happening. I swear. I didn't do any of them. I don't care what you do to me. Just please get me away from that thing.
Interrogation over. Guards, take him to a cell and make sure he's locked tight. I have to say, Deputy, you got some real intimidation going for you, despite how small you are. Never thought I'd see the day Haro was so scared he would admit to his crimes of murder. Though something isn't right. He seemed genuine about not knowing about the disappearances, but he could be lying. We'll hook him up to the lie detector tomorrow, but for now, come with me. Time to celebrate Haro's capture. Oh yeah, if you need to do something in my office, just take the key. I'll see you at the party.
Please, go away. What do you want with me? Why won't you leave me alone? Please, just leave me alone. No! This is the only way it could have ended.
The ultimate end. They were crushed under the weight of their own sins. Samsara of
Cut anew and crushed a bone. Death without life. Null Ouroboros, you
were beautiful, magnificent, perfect, and yet they cast you out. No one left to speak
your eulogy. No final words. No concluding statement. No point. Perfect closure.
This is the only way it should have ended.
Welcome to today's meeting. Today's date, September 30th, 1997. Yesterday, September 29th, we captured the famous killer and man who we thought was behind the recent disappearances here in Midrolls, Haro Lilin. The case went as following. After the deputy set up a trap in an unused home, Haro broke in where the deputy and I, along with multiple officers, confronted him. After chatter back and forth, Haro laid eyes on the deputy. When he did, he was sent into a state of panic and fled from the scene. We chased after him, and I caught him and pinned him down near the nowhere door area. I detained him, and he was brought back here to be interrogated. The deputy, during the chase, had gotten lost and had to walk all the way back here. During the interrogation, he said nothing involving his guilt with the murder and disappearance cases. That was when the deputy, who had gotten back to the station, entered. And, like before, Haro was sent into immediate emotional distress, claiming guilt to his murders, but saying he knew nothing about the disappearances. He was then escorted to the holding cells until he could be tried. When guards went down to feed him and make sure he didn't escape, his lifeless body was found. His cell was unlocked and opened, and before his body was a silent Glock 17 and a painting with a quote attached to it. Medics reported he had been dead for 34 minutes, meaning his time of death was exactly 0 hour. We've scanned all security footage of the cell, but after a few moments of observing, the footage became corrupted, preventing us from seeing the culprit. Scanning fingerprints didn't help either, as the fingerprints on the gun, when scanned, showed no match. As for the quote and painting, the painting was a depiction of Haro standing as shadowy figures tear him apart, bit by bit. And the quote I can't even explain. Begin quote. Haro Lilin, the child of the devil, killed for his own gain and sick view of justice. We showed ourselves to him, tried to remind him what world he lived in, but that failed. And one too many times has he sinned. So, we decided to remove him. End quote. Now, you are all probably wondering why that is so important. A single hour after Haro's death, 17,931 new quote-unquote disappearances occurred. I say disappearances in very loose air quotes because each victim was discovered in the forest, murdered and strung up, or nailed to a cross or pentagram. This is all to say, the disappearances of Midrolls have yet to be solved. The culprit behind this has ignored any warnings of their actions. Furthermore, they have been more aggressive. Sometimes, when we find a victim who fights back, all that is left of them is a mangled corpse. And other times when we find them in very graphic states. It's gotten to a point within the last 4 hours, no one dares leave their houses. Not even criminals. So, until we solve these cases, you are all to redirect resources to finding the culprit behind all of this and end their sorry, pitiful existence. Dismissed. Deputy, that means you too. I am going home. I need a long time to process what has been going on these past 4 hours. You have work to do. That's an order, seriously. Leave me be. I need to think. I need a long time to think. Fine. Fine. If you want to drive me back to my place for safety, you can. But I don't want you staying there. I just want to be left alone. Oh. You noticed the bags. Yeah. I haven't slept since... I don't even remember. The 26th? Time has no meaning anymore. Oh, right. You're going to drive me home. I shouldn't have had those pre-made shots before the meeting. Home, sweet home. You know, I take back what I said at the station. Can you stay with me tonight? Wait, 6:30 already? How did it take us 2.5 hours to get here? I thought you were a good driver. So what? I gave you the wrong directions 10 times in a row. It's not my fault. I'm tired on top of drinking twice as much as I should have. So, now the alcohol is running through my system and making me a dumbass. What? Did I say something? I am too drunk and tired for this. Deputy, I won't remember anything that happens here, so... Can I trust you to keep a secret? Good. I never tell this to anyone but my most trusted partner or friend. And you fit both boxes, so... Haro. He's my nephew. I know. Crazy how I can be blood related to that son of a bitch, but listen to me. After my mother and father separated, my brother and I got split up as well. We both got the short end of some stick. Just, mine was way worse. My brother was 14 years older than me, so when I was 4, he and some girl made a child. Haro. It wasn't until later in life I found out my brother's wife was a serial killer. She ended up murdering him, my brother, and teaching Haro all of the skills that she knew. When I was 18, I went to law school to become an investigator, to
formally imprison Haro. But by the time I graduated at 22, because I decided to spend an extra year just to make sure everything I learned the previous 3 stayed, Haro and my dad struck a deal. I'm sure you remember it from his monologue, that I would never imprison Haro, lest I have my reputation ruined. I stayed silent for so long till my dad died. I don't know why. So when he passed on, I could essentially screw him over from the afterlife by breaking his deal. After his death, he sent all of his money to my mom, who was killed by Haro shortly after, thinking he could steal the inheritance. In her will, she transferred all of her money, my dad's money, as well as the secret stash her and Dad kept hidden for emergencies, all to me. The reason I don't spend my parents' money is because it's connected to my dad, and I cut ties with him when I was 24, 1 month before his death. Another thing no one knows about me, my parents were, what's the word for rich folks, where one person was a complete devil and one was an angel. Because that was my family. With the money that was given to me from my mom and my dad's wills, I have over 7.3 million in a second bank account that I never use. I've been contemplating just donating it to charity, but that would also mean donating the connection I have to my mom as well. And I don't want to lose that. It's been so long since I've seen her. I don't even recall her face. Just a lullaby she used to sing to me. Deputy, will you ever leave me? Your document said so much on how you work. One job, then you vanish, never to be seen again. Is this the same situation? Will you just up and leave after solving all of this? Will you leave me? Deputy, you're so adorable. So small, yet can easily pull twice your weight. Literally, seeing as you can pick me up. A perfect partner. But it's sad how you ended up in this position. Your father and mother were abusive, to the point of permanent scarring. Your niece was sacrificed to the cult of Natas. And your parents all of a sudden cared about you once you got a job and could sustain a comfortable and peaceful life for you and your parents. I'm glad you kicked your parents to the curb. They deserved it for disregarding you their whole life. Good to see you standing up to them. I'm tired, Deputy.
The Book of Revelations, Chapter 23, Verse 1. There once was a man. He had no name, no soul, yet he did good. He wandered around aimlessly, helping out those who could not help themselves. And as he did, his popularity grew, but so too did his enemies. One day, he was confronted by a group of men. They ridiculed him for his body, his clothing, his way of thinking. He didn't extort the weak. He helped them, which harmed the men. And so they beat him with sticks, poured tar on him, chained him up, and whipped him for weeks on end, till he was barely alive. And then for dead. In his last moments, he apologized for everything he had done. His words carried on a drift to his son, who wandered around, spreading the news of his father's murder, and in time, the number grew. The men who extorted power over the weak had it stripped away till they were on their knees before the sun. They begged and pleaded for his mercy, his help, and when he turned away, refusing to help them, they tried to strike back, but that led to their demise. They were beaten, burned, and ridiculed by those that man had helped. When they were left in a state like the father was in, they realized what they had done, and so they cried out for forgiveness. But no one heard. They pleaded, but after what they had done to not just the father, but others, they had become monsters. And what monster deserves forgiveness?
What monster? Are you sure this source can be trusted, Deputy? We have no clue who this person is. We could very easily be wandering into a trap. You're right. This is the only choice we have. We've been led down a maze by someone smarter than Haro for months now. So, any intel on them will go a long way. This is the spot, but all that's here is the nowhere. Hold on. That's a bunker hatch. How did we never... Stay on guard, Deputy. We're going in. Whoa. This is... Something is going on here, and we need to figure it out as soon as possible. Come on, Deputy. Let's have a look around. Look at all of this. Ancient texts dating all the way back to the before Christ era. BC. And this is what looks like real gold. Boy, oh boy, religious and history majors would have a field day here. There's even text on the wall. It is very worn out, but I think I can read it. A name of some kind, 130. Failure, disgrace. You've done it now. For your crimes against... something... I cast you down to the place no one has ever treaded to, where you will never return. Well, that's ominous. Come on, Deputy. Let's keep going. Who would have guessed that a massive temple full of religious history would be hidden right in front of us this whole time? Though, it is odd. We've never seen the hatch that led here before. A lot of teens explore out to the nowhere door because no animals go near it for some odd reason, and plants seemingly grow slower near it, making it a perfect spot to hang out. We catch teens there all the time, especially at night. Yet, even then, we never noticed a hatch. So, what did we do differently that led us to be brought here? Normally, I'm not a fan of statues, but I hate them even more now. Weeping angels is what these statues are called. Show anything scary to an innocent kid and you'll get a weeping angel right there, am I right?
No. Oh, quit being so tense, Deputy. I'm only having a little fun. It helps me to remain calm, despite this whole situation. Oh, look, another wall of text. Let's see here. Something 131. Regret, sorrow, remorse. A soul was damned that day, damned to the pits I regret making, judged unlawfully by a false ruler who now sits alone, the will they made shaken greatly. So, the last verse, or whatever, judging as this is seemingly linked to the Bible somehow, was about someone being cast out for failing something, and now the one who cast that person out is regretting what they did? Hey, Deputy, you okay? It's just, your hands are shaking, and you look like you're fighting back tears. Is something the matter? Well, if you say so. Come on. Let's keep looking for this person to see what they know. Holy, this place is huge. It's gotta be at least, what, like 100 feet deep at this point? And it is still going. Look at that. Even more artifacts. Is that the Ark of the Covenant? I would say let's head back to the station to get a full team of officers, but something is telling me to keep going to see how deep this rabbit hole goes. I know that curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. Once we can find a definitive case here, or the person you said would help us, then we can go. And would you look at that? Another wall of text. Let's see. Something to 1. I sit here, the guilt of my actions chaining me down. All I want to do is hide, to disappear and never return. But I can't. I made that choice, and now I have to live with it. So grief has taken over this person after banishing out someone. Come on, you have to admit that this is some interesting stuff to learn about. And plus, we haven't met whoever will help us, so we must keep going. Whoa. It just keeps getting better, and... Deputy, move! I'm okay. Deputy, what about you? Oh, thank goodness. Listen to me. You need to get back to the station and call for backup. Whatever the hell this place is, we need to investigate. Don't worry about me. I'll look for an exit. The hell? What is... That is not a person. That is not a fucking person! What was that? Where even? What in the...
Feast opens the mouth in the sky as the blood of the god pours out unto the earth to feed those who hear the prayers of the feast. Listen closely. You hear it? You will hear the laughter of thousands as the sky opens up. You will hear the trumpets play their happy sounds. The scalding blood of life will pour down onto us all. Together, we will be still. Together, a feast fit for a king. Together, wielded by love and purest connection. Be still.
What the hell? Whoever is behind all of this, is not human. No, they have to be human. The supernatural doesn't. Though, they travel around in quick succession and destroy religious structures and figures. The burning of the church all the way in Washington. The ashes of the Bibles from the library were rearranged as a direct attack against Christianity. And then there was Gabriel Learbag. He was killed in his own church, and every bit of evidence there was slandering. And the incidents that happened a few weeks ago, when the house of the Emily family had their Quran destroyed, alongside the painting of Allah they had. No. I'm holding firm the supernatural doesn't exist, and that thing was just a figment of my imagination. What is this book? The Compendium of the Forsaken by Dr. Nezquam. This book has been created to teach all the souls who do not believe in divine or supernatural creatures. I have spent years of my life compiling data from the many forsaken creatures here in this labyrinth of a temple. But I fear what would happen if it falls into the wrong hands. So, to whoever reads this, if you have made it this far, you must have a pure will to not fall for the temptations of whatever evil being resides here. You may read the book, but what it contains could very well shatter all of reality. So destroy it, burn it to the ground, and scatter the ashes at the bottom of the ocean or in the depths of space. Just get rid of it. So it's a compendium of different ungodly creatures. What the hell? I mean, I've seen biblically accurate depictions of angels, but Jesus, this is on another level. Are these biblically accurate demons? That's the thing that tried attacking me. It's just a coincidence, right? A trickster demon. They take the form of angels to attempt to trick unsuspecting prey into a trap. Although, their disguises 90% of the time are extremely flawed, leading them to never evolving to solely rely on stealth. Even the 10% with near-perfect disguises have flaws that make them stand out. So, they don't pose a threat to humanity, and I can safely keep them here for the time being. Please, none of this be real. None of this can be real. I must still be asleep in my home, with a deputy watching over me, and... Freeze! Don't... Deputy? I thought I told you to go back to the station and get backup. Why are you still here? Oh. Hey. Yeah, I'm fine. And I'm glad you are too. But that still doesn't excuse what you just did. You went against my orders, and that could land you a demotion, you know. But seriously, why are you still here? Better yet, how did you get here? The collapse cut us both off. Don't try and deflect the question, Deputy. This is serious. So, when you tried to leave, the hatch just led you further down into this place? How? That shouldn't be... That can't be possible, can it? Oh, this? It's a compendium written by some guy named Dr. Nezquam. It contains information on weird folklore creatures some kids would dress up as on Halloween. We should probably find a way out of here. Oh, guess I'm following you. seems... Mind your own business, partner. I will not have to tell you anything eventually. Not even back at the station. Hey, Deputy. I won't tell you anything, but do you think you can help me, burn this book? Because it's old, and the pages are very worn to the point they're barely readable. But I have to admit, the readable parts on this are really, really detailed on these creatures. I mean, each one is 2 to 3 pages long. The roaring, the sliders. Man, these names are very bland for creatures that look straight out of folklore. I bet you can make a lot of good horror movies out of this stuff. Don't get me wrong, that extraterrestrial movie was a good movie, but the rest, just cash grabs if you ask me. But these, they could get a lot of movies with the basic info that we have. Stay calm. None of these are real. Just make sure the deputy gets out alive. Oh, what the? This one is different than the rest of the pages. It's a story. It's titled The Story of the Risen. Let's see what it says. The 7 Angels. A doctrine many know, but what people haven't heard is there are 10 stories for another time. Perhaps one angel stood out among the 10. An archangel. One unknown to the world, but known in heaven. They were the closest one to God, above Gabriel, above even God's own son. They helped in the creation of everything. When God couldn't think of what to make, the angel gave him ideas, and as time went on, the two grew closer, eventually growing a friendship that could never be shattered. Or so it was thought. But one day, God started growing more distant. He was drowning in his job of watching over the earth, and the archangel was focused on the work in heaven. The two visited less and less until eventually they stopped. After a while, the archangel was called up to the throne of God, where they were tasked to destroy humanity after they had failed God. But for once, the archangel refused. God and them had spent so long together. They gave God the ideas for lots of things he created, and they even aided in the creations. And yet, here God sat, the only friend of the archangel, the one they trusted enough to the point of doing almost anything. And here they were, telling the archangel to destroy what they both worked so hard for. The archangel could not allow it, and performed an action no one dared. They directly defied God, and for it, they were cast down into a place no one could find them, infinity itself. And although God believed they deserved it, that was not true. As time went on, not only did God not forget the archangel, neither did heaven. The archangel was known for their kindness, and because of that, heaven and even hell acknowledged a kindness and forgivingness better than God, and even God admitted to such. So, the guilt started eating away at him. Slowly, heaven came to learn about God's deed, and slowly, they began to hate him for it. In time, they rose up. Not even his right hand or his son could save him. Both were against him, but God was content. He punished someone unlawfully and unfairly because they didn't follow through his plan to end what they had created. He was disappointed his word was not law, and in that fear, he wanted to destroy his creations, neglecting his friend, punishing them over something he didn't want to do himself. Yet they refused to, and this was his justice for his actions. Yet he was glad. As the doors of his throne room burst open, God said his final goodbyes before, with a single slash of Gabriel's sword, the head of God rolled off of his throne. The white marble of his temple was stained a crimson red as heaven began to collapse, along with all of creation. In that collapse, the gateway between infinity and creation opened. As the archangel stepped through and took God's place on the throne, the crumbling stopped, as a new God was crowned, and all of creation was saved. That is sad. Who would have guessed God was a flawed being? Deputy, you okay? You stopped, and you look like you're either about to cry or break something. What are you pointing? Isn't that your room? I mean, the photo is heavily distorted, but I recognize that face. What is that doing here? Deputy, what are you... How did you... Yes, I knew. Yarum was a childhood friend of mine. How could I not know? Yarum is where I got my obsession with paranormal things, though I still don't believe in them. He was like a brother to me after my biological one was murdered, so when he moved here to Midrolls to see me, it was a dream come true. But as time went on, he witnessed Haro's cases, and then he found out Haro was my nephew and was blood related to me. So we drifted apart, seeing each other less and less. Until that fateful day. I was investigating a local gun shop for traces of Haro, as his quote-unquote death was still fresh on our hands, and we didn't believe it. But when I saw the list of buyers looking for traces of someone who knew, or at least encountered the civilian Haro, I noticed your room's name. All he had purchased was a Glock 17 and a single 9mm. He hadn't even purchased the round, technically. He didn't want to buy a whole box for one bullet, I'm guessing, so he just asked. And I guess the store clerk gave him one for free and just put it on the receipt as one bullet. Shouldn't have done that. I knew what he was doing, so I rushed to his home and found him on the floor. He had long since left, and next to him was a journal and scratchbook. It detailed every moment of his life, down to his final thoughts. I won't go in depth, but pretty much his mental health after his family issues was terrible. I managed to lift him up, but then when he found out I was related to Haro, all that trust shattered, and he decided to end it all. I couldn't deal with the guilt, and because that was happening during the time period of the disappearances, I blamed it on those instead of owning up to it. But now I want to know, how do you know about any of these, Deputy? Better yet, why is it you seemingly knew everything that was going to happen before it did? In the case of Gabriel, we split up in the church, yet for some reason, you knew where I was when I witnessed that tape. Then with the case of Haro himself, you chose such a specific house, as if you knew he would be there. I'm guessing it was you this whole time behind the disappearances. Your silence only proves my point. Tell me, liar. How? And why? How did you do so much in such a short period of time? And why? What did we ever do to deserve this? We trusted you, and you broke that. Like our hearts. Now, what is this? Some kind of statue? That is the deputy's name. As above, so below. What you reap is what you sow. What you give comes back threefold. As above, so below. A crimson red, a holy white, and darkest night. Look deep into your mind. Fear is what you shall find. It's time to say goodbye. I'll see you next time. What the hell is that? Old songs. Demons with a large arm and a tiny arm. They lack intelligence, attacking anything they see that they don't like. Despite their massive size, they can outspeed a bullet train by 100 miles. Why is it just...
Target identified. Badge number 337G3. ID, Scratch Lilin. Sex, female. Age, 29. Height, 5'9". Description, white hair, gray eyes. Sports a slender build with a pair of amber earrings and a talisman necklace bearing the holy symbol of Zarhamla. Blood type, B positive. Current objective, kill on sight.
What the hell? What was that? Where am I? Listen here, and listen well. Whatever you are. I don't know who you are, or where here is, or even how I got here, but you had better... Deputy? No, it can't be. That voice, it... Never mind, it is you. I know that grin any... You have a lot of explaining to do, Deputy. What the hell is this crazy place, and why do you have wings? Well, if I had to guess, I'm either dreaming or you're some divine entity. With what happened to me within the past hour, that answer does not surprise me. I trusted you. And now I see I shouldn't have. Yes, okay, I would have thrown you in a psych ward if you told me you were a fucking god when we met. But you should have shared that info with me when all the weird shit here in Midrolls started happening. You still didn't answer my other question. What is this place? The Lake of Limbo. What do you... Okay. Maybe I should apologize as well. I shouldn't pry for personal info if I don't have to, but I'm still mad you not only withheld this information from me, but also the fact you kidnapped and most likely killed nearly 50,000 plus people. Half of them being children. I still need to punish you for unlawfully killing them. Why do you want me to look in your eyes? They all did.
Still, though, showing me all the terrible things everyone you killed did doesn't excuse you from punishment. You still committed a federal crime. Many, many crimes. Those acts cannot go unpunished, even for a divine entity such as yourself. Hey, you're not leaving. While I can't excuse what you have done, I cannot ignore the good things you have done. Or the promise I made to you back when I promoted you. So we need to come to an agreement. Since no one in Midrolls knows what you actually are, I could kill your mortal form and put everyone else at ease. But that doesn't mean you're off the hook from me. You need to make up for every single kill that you did and right your wrong. Though, I cannot offer anything in return. So, I am selfishly asking you for something, and I can't even return the favor I keep the promise. If I can't do that, what's the point in making it? I'm offering myself as a host. It's clear to me you're not okay with nothing. I saw your wings droop, and they even seemed to wither and turn slightly black. So I'm offering myself. I know you've enjoyed every second with me, though you never showed it. I always noticed your gaze lingered on me, even after I saw you looking at me. Furthermore, you had a very faint yet genuine smile every time you saw me. So, I know you'll accept this offer. The only question is, can you accept the fact that you want to take the offer? That's what I thought. We can sweeten the deal for each other as time goes on, or rearrange some parts if need be. But for now, this is our arrangement. Take us back to the mortal realm so we can go through with it. There's the deputy I know. I've missed that small and cute face. Never thought that on a Saturday night I would be figuring out the punishment for a god. But here we are. Now, as punishment for lying to me and everything else you've done, we're even. So, you'll be watching me from now on. That is both creepy and comforting. Don't worry, I won't slander your name like Haro's. I'll give you a good farewell. The deputy, you, at least. I'll figure out some lie on how you died or betrayed me or something to justify me shooting and killing this form of you. Probably not betrayed. That is not a good case. Well, see you real soon, deputy. Today is a tragic day. While it has only been a few weeks since they joined, it was a fun time. But sadly, they weren't as innocent as I seemed. The deputy who I personally appointed revealed to me that they were the reason behind the disappearances. Then, when I found them, they had tragically taken their own life. While to most, if not all of us, it may seem justified of them to do so. So we need to realize it's not all their fault they were led down that dark path. It was the fault of their parents and the society they lived in. While yes, they need to take responsibility, it was the environment which built them into this monster. They were a worse case of Yarumada, but sadly, unlike Yarum, who found their way here in Midrolls at a young age, the deputy had to live on their own for a long time. And when they got here, the burden of expectations we put on them was enough to break them, and caused the disappearances before taking their own life. I've decided to reveal the truth to everyone here. Yarum wasn't killed during the deputy's rampage of disappearances. But we killed Yarum.
I will not go into detail, but I must repent for what I have done. I covered your room's side as a disappearance, and I will not do the same here. The deputy ended themselves, and it was the fault of society. We need to do better. I know we can. And it starts with rebuilding. Good night, everyone. Here's to hoping tomorrow will be better. I'm glad we could lay your case to rest. I hope my body suffices so far. Good. I'm glad. Oh, I'm not uncomfortable. Well, kind of, but not because of you. I'm just trying to get used to the feeling of a divine entity right behind me. Actually, you're kind of gripping my heart, or soul, or whatever it's called, pretty tight. Yeah, that's better. I'm going to need a lot of getting used to this feeling. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What's all this about? You noticed me shivering? I guess I can't really hide from your omnipotent eyes. Your wings are so soft. Like a weighted blanket and some sort of spider silk. Yeah, you can tell me anything. Hey, you're stuttering a lot and your heart rate sped up drastically. Okay, hey, okay. No need to get defensive. Just pointing out what I saw. That has got to be the worst confession I've ever heard. You're a god. How do you have anxiety around females? Hey, no need to be so awkward or embarrassed about it. Hey, get back here. I'm not done yet. Everyone fucked up horribly around their crush at some point. So just relax and I'll quit it. God, you're a dumbass. And you're my dumbass. Hey guys, Scratch here. I do want to remember to include the note that TPA added. Thank you, TPA, for making this. I am so proud of you for dealing with me about these scripts and for just writing such a great thing. I have not read the note that TPA wrote, so we're gonna go ahead and experience it together. Outro, a note from myself to the viewers. A bittersweet end to a passion project I started on September 9th. Yeah, it's October 13th as of recording. Thank you all for dealing with my crazy scripts I made before the Fallen from Grace series, which is what I named the series. I won't stop writing anytime soon, but for now, I got a big project out of my way. I plan to make more series in the future, but for now, let's start off slow. I don't want to break Scratch. Yeah, series really take it out of me for some reason. They seem like a lot more effort than normal videos. Back to it. Though if you all want it, I can make a bonus script. It's really up to you all if you want to see that. As for this series itself, if it wasn't obvious enough, I took inspiration from a few analog horror series, specifically the Mandela Catalog. Again, thank you all for enjoying this series. Dash to protect of all. That was lovely. That was lovely. Love you, TPA. Love you, viewers, for listening. Thank you for listening. But yeah. Oh, if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe. Love Enchanter with comments, and you made this far, so why not subscribe? Join the Patreon and the Discord. And yeah. Bye bye.